We are the very last session before we have final remarks, so you have the tough job of condensing everything that we've heard today, and we're going to digest everything in this panel discussion called Building the Infrastructure for SCION to Thrive, and I think that's quite a forward-looking title that we're going to be discussing. Why don't we start off with a very simple question? Why do we need a better internet? Simple doesn't always mean it's easy. So who wants to take this?
Well, actually, I think we heard it the whole day, why we need a better internet. It's not just that there is dangers out there, that the performance is not there where it should be, the reliability is not given. But I think it is also a question of responsibility at the end of the day. I mean, human beings have not been made for the internet, you know, or like economy has not been made, human beings are not made to participate in the economy. It's the other way around. And now if you look on how the internet, the World Wide Web performs today, then we have to say there is our responsibility to provide something better, something safer, something more reliable, and that gives us sort of authority about our data, the way the data travel, to what paths it takes, etc. And that's one of the good reasons to have a new internet.
Who wants to jump in here?
If I may add, the title of today's session is a lot about security and so on, and that's of course correct, but it's more, in my view. We are talking a lot about business continuity actually, and continuity of the society. If the internet would break down, we would have a huge problem. And a lot of the SCION use cases with the resilience we heard in Sam's presentation, the use case of gate protecting critical interfaces is about continuing the business. If shit hits the fan, and the normal internet is simply not up to it just now.
Okay, so in essence, or in a nutshell, you're really saying that the internet has been thrust upon us, and now it's our responsibility to, I don't know, find a way to adapt to this. Yes?
Maybe I can also try to answer that from a customer's perspective of ours. And our customers, we build corporate networks for them, and they often ask us, we would like to have a secure network, and it has to be highly available, and it has to be also very flexible. And then we have the public networks where we try to build solutions, and we have private networks that we try to build solutions. But really, to solve all these aspects is very difficult. So for that, I think SCION is a method to combine both worlds and really create something new. And as you mentioned, it creates it on layer 3, which allows the technology even to evolve and even address future challenges that we don't even may know about it also going forward.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that even beyond that, so for us, networks of the future need to be trusted and resilient in all aspects. And I think it goes beyond corporations. If you think about it, the internet runs the society. It's human, it's digital, it's physical world coming together. And if that doesn't work, we have a challenge actually to overcome collectively. And everything that we can do to improve that is highly welcome. And SCION is a key building block. Does it revolutionize everything? We will see, but it is a building block, and it's a key building block potentially for the future.
Hugues, I think you had final words there.
Yeah, thank you. One thing to add maybe as well is SCION enables the business-to-business internet, which is not often said here, because in the end, internet was not done to make business relations. It was done to distribute information. Now it enables the real transition towards an exchange of information, which makes sense for the business, helping them to add value to their own solution.
So why don't we give a bit of context to our audience here? Maybe if you can all share one by one exactly how long you have been a SCION provider, and where exactly do you see the strategic fit of SCION with your business? If you could be as concrete as possible, maybe we could start with you.
That's almost a matter for history books now. I think it's more than 11 years ago that our late CEO decided to sponsor the work of Adrian Berg. Then Adrian went into his research cave, did some black magic there, and out came, when was it, 2017, Sam, what did you say, came Anapaya? And since then, we are involved with Anapaya, and it was never about, or hardly about the technology. It was always about use cases, getting it operational, finding the right business models, and so on. And yes, since then, we are trying to get it to work, and without the I believe without the use case of SSFN, we would for sure not be there where we are today, and that was a huge lucky punch, I think. Who said it about being lucky? I think the colleague. I think we have been lucky in Switzerland with that use case.
I think Adrian also will have to share what exactly goes on in this cave and this black magic behind the doors. Over to you.
Yeah, we came a bit later into the game. I think it was even the last SCION day in January 2022 when we have been able to announce our partnership with Anapaya. And then soon after we built our SCION core and now are able to offer our services also in that community. I think we are a small provider, but also I think we have a spot here. We try to add value to the industry, to the customers with the services, maybe in a bit a different manner. But I think this is what counts, that we have different providers with different capabilities that at the end form an ecosystem that can help the industry or different industries, of course, to find their needs and benefits. How it started with us and why did we do it? It was actually the engineers that pushed it. They saw this technology, they fell in love with it, and then dig into the details. And then this was the initial goal where we started to talk to Anapaya. Secondly, it was that the fact that the technology is invented in Switzerland. It is close to us. We're a company based here in Zurich, so we can basically walk to the ETH and talk to them, and that's something also we saw as an opportunity to help the technology to get into the practice, to help it to get to the real business. And the last thing was probably that it really fits our strategic focus in full. We provide corporate networks, and SCION is an optimal technology to provide corporate networks with a modern technology that really fulfills a lot of needs that cannot be addressed with today's technologies.
Maybe since you're coming to us from the US, it could be interesting to hear that perspective. We've heard that there are benefits being a Swiss company, using Swiss technology. I mean, do you feel that there's any downside to
Yeah, so I'm actually moving between the worlds, between the US and Europe at times. But for us, we are a global network infrastructure provider. So and within that, I'm leading the global office of the CTO. So we are looking at inflection points in market, society, and technology that create opportunities or risks for Extreme. Sometimes, or most of the time, it's both at the same time. As we've seen recently, pandemic changed a lot, geopolitical crisis, generative AI, and obviously, what about the internet? So from our point of view, what resonated and is interesting for us, we do have a fabric technology that we use to protect our enterprise customers inside of their infrastructure, and it allows them to simplify network segmentation at scale. Yeah? And when we looked at SCION as a technology, if you think about the domains that you can build out, it's exactly the same, but it extends it across enterprises and between enterprises. And we have just seen, and it has been proven, that segmentation allows you to minimize the attack surface and also minimize the blast radius as things happen, and things always happen. Yeah? And SCION for us was a natural extension when you also intersected with the pandemic, where suddenly everybody went home and nobody wants to come back. The lady from the Swiss government mentioned that as well. So you need to extend that concept way beyond the traditional enterprise boundaries. For us, it was a strategic fit from that point of view. And while we are a large, one of the top networking providers, we are still a challenger because there are others that are bigger. So we like to challenge the status quo we are trying to find new ways, better outcomes, which is our corporate mission, and hence we are here. And we have been part of this since the early pilots of the Swiss, the SSFN, so I'll call it Finance Network, because ultimately it shouldn't be just Switzerland, obviously. So we were part of the initial pilots. I think one of our customers, incidentally, also started with that in 2019, I think. And since then, we are really close, and we're also trying to build up that ecosystem. And also, our goal is obviously to expand beyond Switzerland. Yeah, for us as a global network provider, global reach, or at least geographical coverage, is going to be important. Yeah, we see at least at the European level, something should happen with SCION. Yeah. We also tend to develop solutions for regions, specifically on the cloud side. We have seen a lot of requirements around data sovereignty, so our cloud platform can be brought back to customers, and so we see that regional requirements are sometimes a really good driver and catalyst to get technology adopted and make it successful, and hence we are here.
Hugues?
Yeah, for Telindus in Luxembourg, basically, SCION architecture was a chance for us to take the lead in the innovation of the next generation network. Basically, as we are the challenger in telco activities, we need to differentiate not only on price, but also on innovation. And there is a big strategic fit related to the networking solution with our path to the private cloud, because we are also an ICT company where we deliver a private cloud solution for Luxembourg and European companies. And our next stage would be to have a sovereign cloud. So what would be a sovereign cloud without having the control on how the data transit towards that cloud? So basically, SCION for us was the chance to have an end-to-end trusted environment between the end customer and where the data will be processed, stored, and so on. So basically, it's really based on the innovation, and we are proud to be the first SCION node owner, let's say, in Luxembourg, to extend the network of SCION in the Benelux in that case.
Last but not least, Andreas, you're coming to us from Sunrise. Love to hear about.
Because of Fritz. It's Fritz showed up one day and said, "Hey Andy, you need to introduce SCION. You know, ETH Zurich." I said, "Are you talking
when was
about
that?
secret brotherhoods, or
Yeah.
I mean, you know, all this?" And then suddenly also my CTO popped up, having been on the SCION Day. So we see the value of the SCION Day, and said, "Hey, we need to talk about SCION." And I said, "Okay, again, so there must be something." I looked into it, and similar to what you said, fell in love with it, and the passion grew. And so, I started defending the SCION cause internally in our organization. And as it very often happens, this is new, and do we really need that? And, there is tons of other solutions around, you know, they provide you the control and everything, we don't need that. And so we went a little bit into submarine mode, you know, CTO, myself, and some people from product management and networks, and then we did it with budget, not from B2B, but from the CTO. And then I said, well, one day or another, those guys should know what we are doing all day long, you know. Even submarine is fine, but if you want to go large, if you want to scale, then you need to make it public. And I arranged a meeting with Fritz again, you again, and our chief business officer, and then, you know, the click came. And then we introduced SCION on a professional way, the way it needs to be provided in order to have a true service, to grant service levels, and to be sure about the operation and the processes, so that we can really deliver quality. Not only a secure, reliable network, but also the quality of provisioning it properly to the customers. And of course, going forward, then we started realizing also the strategic fit. We're talking about verticals in a business. You have some stacks in that business. You want to keep those stacks. There is always two ways of selling. You know, one is sell by benefits, advantages, low price, of course, but you can also sell by preventing damage. So you also have to do that internally within an organization sometimes. If we don't move, we might lose this market. We might lose those customers that bring that much revenue today. And that, yeah, that I think was the final hit to say, yeah, there is a strategic fit. And then suddenly they realized there is ARPU increase possible. You know, existing connectivity customers, and now you can add value on it, which you send an invoice for it, which means we grow the top line. And then, of course, the gross margin. And then new verticals pop up by now with the health system, with the energy, which I think is a real good story, real good stories that come up, and there is more to come. Other use cases will pop up, which, well, my organization is already into working on those, like IoT, industrial IoT, and if we talk about like self-driving cars, also health, IoT for health and so on, it needs to be secure, it needs to be reliable, it needs to be available and stable. And therefore, the strategic fit is given too.
Okay, so speaking about customers, let's actually touch on that. We've all know the benefits that it can bring to them, but maybe if you could share some of the responses that you've encountered from some of the customers. What do they appreciate about SCION, or what do they less appreciate?
Wow, you know, there we touch the human level, so, and the psychology. What I realize often is that the first reaction is, that's great. The world has waited for that. Then you say, great, let's move on. That's where the stop comes. You know, you have to realize that we're feeling very comfortable in our comfort zone because we know it. Although it might not be optimal, we still know it. We believe we can judge the risk, we can mitigate, we can manage the risks. And now suddenly I should move away out of this zone, which I know, into something new, which might be better, but I don't know it yet. So to jump that, to cross that line, it needs a little help from time to time, right? So that is one aspect. That's also maybe one of the reasons why within the SSFN it didn't move as fast as we would have wished, or that we anticipated or built the business case on. But I think also there is, afterwards, dynamics are developing. One sees another one has jumped the line and says, oh, why should I not be doing it? And suddenly you will have the dynamics where the people say, if I don't jump now, I'll be the last one. I don't want to be the last one. And then, you know, it goes on and it goes on. And I think it was a great pioneer work, the SSFN, done with the whole SCION Alliance, which, you know, it's basically all the people in here, and which I'm happy to be an ambassador for the technology and for the SCION Alliance, and not only for, like, my employer who pays my salary. Don't tell my boss. But anyway, I think when you have this example now moving into other verticals, the dynamics will be better. You know, there is like the proof is given, and the comfort zone is easier to leave, to go into new fields if you know that others did it successfully. So I hope that's one of the wishes, that we move on faster with the new verticals.
Do the other panelists share the same view, especially when it comes to this view on the readiness to adopt?
Definitely. I mean, it's that simple to sell POCs, but then the next level takes much more time. I can only agree. 3 more verticals, or 3 verticals in total, will for sure multiply the take-up rate. But I believe the organization, I mean, the individual person might understand it, but the whole organization at the customers or in the industries, they need help. They need more help to like the PKA infrastructure setup and getting the spine and the willingness and the acceptance in the organization to take the final step to say, yes, we do that. There's organizations, I believe, need more help. There we are not scaling enough and Anapaya cannot do that, we cannot do that. I think there is more help needed from the SCION Association, for example, that we get more multipliers into Switzerland, and not to speak about Europe or the world, then, to get the organizations doing it.
Can I press you on that? So you said you want to see more from the SCION Association. I think Nicola there, your co-CEO, he's taking over in January. So what would you tell him on his to-do list for January? I'm giving you work already.
Transforming the excellent blueprints we have now from SSFN and HIN into something other industries can much more simply adapt to. Download it, get consulting in how to do it, how to deploy it, and help the organization to make that final decision.
Okay. Then. Did you take notes there? So we've cut.
Absolutely, and I really like this idea of this SSXN blueprint that we talked about earlier. So it's something that came in, I think, also from other people in the room, and yeah, we definitely got a lot of feedback today. So that's really important for us to focus what we're gonna work on in the next year. So thank you.
He's listening to you. So we've covered already today SCION's adoption in Switzerland and abroad, but maybe if we could just go into more detail there, in which sectors do you actually see the real potential or benefit of SCION and why? I mean, in the previous panel, we already looked at a few industries, but if you could identify another particular sector that could really benefit from SCION and maybe give a few reasons.
I mean, from our point of view, finance is an obvious one, but I'd like to go back to the European Union reference as well. There's a new regulation coming out, NIS2, which is all about security compliance in, let's say, expanded critical infrastructure environment, including suppliers. That includes government, healthcare, utilities, transportation and logistics, internet service providers. Basically, most of the organizations will fall under that regulation, and to me it's obvious that any of those verticals and suppliers that are included in the scope of NIS2 are perfect targets for SCION use cases. Yeah? And also, just to add to it, I think we need to continuously lower the bar to enter the technology. Yeah? Blueprints are great from our point of view, from my point of view as well, is especially on the enterprise side. IT skill set shortage is real. That doesn't help to introduce new technology, so we need to help customers there to also de-risk the introduction of new technologies like SCION. So from my point of view, from our point of view, it's really important to work not only between vendors, but also include managed service providers where customers can rely on, that take on the effort and to a degree cost, but mainly the risk to introduce a new technology. So I think also there needs to be an ecosystem between vendors, providers, managed service providers that help enterprises to get comfortable with the technology. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe also one additional vertical of many of those verticals would be the mission critical communication as well, because in somehow these mission critical communication are there to save life, and of course this relies on proper network. And SCION enable an efficient private networking between multi-operator, and therefore having mission-critical communication for the pompiers, the fire brigade, or the ambulances, and so on, which comes from one of SCION-enabled operator, would make sure that the communication is always there. So being IoT-based, being stream of images, being voice communication, this might be able to save life. Our situation in Luxembourg is maybe a bit strange because we want to speak about SCION as a multi-operator enabling solution, but we are today yet the only one. So it's a bit chicken and egg problem as well as at a local country, but still this is one of the use case which might also opens the eyes to the deciders, such as politics, we spoke about earlier, or the strong banking association. We have also a big financial place in Luxembourg, so I wish them to also look at what's going on here in Switzerland. Health network as well. This is also a typical case where there is the incumbent which is in charge of the IPVPN of all this network of health, which prevent somehow by taking 30 days to open a VPN token for an external line. So there are a lot of use cases, but we need to make sure that it's also being replicated locally. So here the strength of Switzerland was that all operators jump in. So therefore, it was possible for SSFN to be the first POC and then the first operational solution. We need to make sure that this will be also reflected in other countries, and then we can open a European-wide SCION network.
So, yes,
I
feel
think
like
you
you have a comment
mentioned
there.
something very important, which is like the European scaling. And we're always talking about like business communities, or critical infrastructures, but we also must see and face the geopolitical situation. And there, if you say, what is a critical infrastructure for Europe? And now we're back to the SCION, when we talk about the electricity distribution over grids that overlap countries, etc. I think we have to recall again the responsibility of the ISPs, the telcos. And somebody said earlier in a discussion, well, the telcos are in the center. I contradict this a little bit. The telcos are the fundament and gives them a huge power of saying yes or no. And with great power comes great responsibility. And that's why I would say it is a call for actions for the European telcos to go implement SCION, to allow mission critical and critical infrastructures to be secured on a geopolitical level, right? Also, we need to be able to defend ourselves on a European level and not just for an industry. So it goes beyond that. But of course, there is still some other critical industries around, or critical infrastructures around, like logistics, aviation, military, government, you name it, and then the applications go with it. Like I mentioned already, IoT. And that also means for us in Switzerland, a further deployment into the infrastructure. That is another call for responsibility. We need to go the next step and deploy SCION into the mobile cores so that fire brigades, the crisis teams, etc., are able to communicate if even other infrastructures fall out.
There was today actually a nice picture for exactly that already here on the screen from the colleague from the cybersecurity lab showing a 5G network distributed over countries, even distributed over ISPs, and I think that's exactly what you're describing, because there will be a lot of reuse from blue light organizations of the 5G and tomorrow 6G networks, and that's exactly what you described now. I think it was already on the screen here today.
Yeah, enabling a 5G slice of SCION basically would make sense to collect all that traffic.
So final question before we move on to Q&A. Let's keep it very broad. What is your mid to long-term vision for the technology, and how would we get there? Maybe if you're even working on steps to get there, if you could give us some insight there.
I was very happy to see the AWS here today. I mean, the bits and bytes of yet another SCION feature, I leave that to Anapaya. From our perspective, I want to make it simpler. That was also on the screen. We will bring SCION on universal CPE so that you can just download it and don't need additional hardware on premise to get the deployment easier. I was talking before about resilience. We will allow to also for power outage anatomy, 72 hours power anatomy on a SCION-enabled internet access from 1st of December onwards. Also for wholesale customers, before you sue me. So that's the areas we would like to focus on to simpler and more resilience for Switzerland. That's the areas we will focus on.
Thomas, do you have other key priorities?
Yeah, doing the small steps, my vision is that we get as many companies online, on net, on SCION in the near future. And there's a lot of groundwork to do. We're out there every day and identifying problems customers have to adopt to SCION. And we try to look at them. Could be like they are in a multiple tenant situation where they try to find how do I get SCION into that. They are in virtual cloud environments where they try to identify how do I get SCION into that. But there we try to be open, try to focus on solutions, go for lunch with Fritz from time to time, then to see if compliance is still matching. But I think this is what needs to happen there. Learn from the customers, get to know the use cases, and from that try to increase the customer base or the SCION base at the end of the day. I think that's what we're into, and try to add our piece of the value to the ecosystem.
Markus.
Yeah, our goal is definitely to simplify the adoption. So we're working with Anapaya and our partners to lower the entry bar, so to speak, by making sure that all applications are certified on our infrastructure, so our customers can deploy easily. And on top of that, also as Thomas mentioned, understand more and more of the use cases, so we can provide more intelligent integration between Anapaya, SCION, and our own infrastructure to also generate new use cases, even by those smart integrations. So that's our path forward. Yeah.
Yeah, for us, our view is that what would help as well would be that the SaaS provider, not only the hyperscalers and the AIS solution, are SCION compatible, but as well the SaaS solutions, because a lot of employees, when they are working remotely, they need to address their file systems via OneDrive or whatever other solutions. But all this traffic, all those solutions are internet-based, and they are not yet compatible with SCION. So basically, we need to make sure that if we want to have adoption, that the end users have natively access to their data in the cloud, not only in AIS mode, but as well in SaaS mode, so that it will faster the adoption of SCION for every operator, because that would be the solution to make sure that every employee, wherever they are able to access their data via a secure network.
Markus, I give you the final word.
What you say is also meaning and referring down to a really cooperating ecosystem, right?
Right.
In order to enable all that with the telcos, the integrators, the cloud providers, and also whoever hosts data and makes it available to whoever. And that brings me to the vision of saying what I would wish to have is a SCION-enabled world, right? And that means nothing else that the ecosystem, whoever has a stack and bring value in the SCION technology and make it happen, bring it alive, are really working together, not only for money, but also for a big stack of responsibility, because we owe it to this world and to ourselves. And at the end of the day, what will be the result? Nothing else than having made the cyberspace a better and safer place.
I like that you think big. So, to our audience now, we're open to questions. So just raise your hand if you want to ask our panelists. Does anyone have questions? Let's see. Okay, raise. Yes? Okay. We've got a question there. Maybe if you could also just say your name and your title as well. So
my name is Richard. Hello. Thanks for the panel and the presentations. In the morning, I somehow learned that SCION is borderless and censorship resistant and globally useful. On the other side, we are discussing since noon about community networking, basically closed networks. Will there be a public domain on SCION sooner or later that enables really to replace the existing internet, or is that never the goal?
We already have a public domain. In Switzerland, we have it, the Swiss ISD, which allows basically the use case of the SCION gate, so interfacing, I call it the safe bridge between the World Wide Web and SCION. And so that is happening over the public cloud, the Swiss ISD. But also this leaves ecosystem use cases. So you could say, for example, well, in my industry, I have to interface with this company and that company from other industries, so you cannot build an industry vertical for that, so you build an ecosystem, and for that you can use the Swiss ISD. Most probably, and I would presume that would also happen in other SCION-enabled countries in the future. Hope so. Great, thank you. And then, of course, we have the concept of the interoperability between public ISDs. And that basically gives it then the global shape at the end of the day, like a big net around. So I don't know whether that answers your questions, but...
The development which was shown there with a browser, I believe, is a very interesting step into that direction to say on a per session level, basically, okay, now I want the security, now I don't need it, or I cannot use it because it's not implemented there yet. I don't know where this ends, but as Andy said, the gate use case is a very, in principle, a very big step into a public application of SCION. Yeah.
But I think also to a degree you're questioning the concept of those domains. And it's also counter to Metcalfe's law. If you think about it, the value of a network is squared to the number of nodes connected to the network. And if we break up the network, so the internet, in smaller pieces, then the value comes down. Yeah? But what you gain from it is security, trust, and resiliency. So do you always need to be connected to everybody? So I think that's a balance. And you could argue that ultimately, if you open it up to everybody, you end up at the same place where we just started, yeah? Which is something that we need to keep an eye on. Yeah.
That's a good point, actually. You know, I mean, I always hear it sometimes, some objections from customers, doubting that this really works. Like, well, once it is really big, you know, then we'll have the same shit as we have today, sorry for the word, which I don't believe, because you have the SCION code is working completely different. It's authentication between sender and receiver. You are under control to whom you make yourself visible or not. And that could be you launch a request to someone which is rather public, that wants you that you can reach him, but you will be only reachable to that person, but not to all the rest by definition, which is not given today on the BGP world. And so that's why it makes sense to not only interconnect networks, to have an internet and run SCION over that, but also to interconnect the public isolation domains, which is public, I would say, from a country perspective, an isolation domain. It's not really that isolated, but it is trusted, and you, with the SCION principle, the code itself, gives you these privacy possibilities that you need in order to have the control over the way and with whom you want to communicate or not.
I think it's even the beauty of SCION that you can start with those trust zones or isolation domains and can create value within those already. And then you have later on the possibility to expand and interconnect with other domains and see how the journey goes. But it would even be more difficult to adapt to such a new technology if you would not have this possibility of creating these trust zones now.
Hopefully that answers your question. Okay, well, we have a long apéro for you to go through that. So we have a question in the middle. Just click it on the side and it should be on.
So I have a question. If I would be a small internet provider in Switzerland and I listened to this day carefully and I got very positive and I would like to join the Swiss isolation domain as with my small little ISP company, how would be my first step to get in contact to you, or how is the culture evolving? You were saying, well, we are cooperating, we have to cooperate. I would like to cooperate as a small ISP. What would you suggest me to do?
Talk to an ISP who has already incorporated SCION, because there is a lot of experience what you can do right and what you can do wrong. So, I mean, if we would run or if we would deploy SCION today, we might do it differently, right? So there is a lot to learn by experience, by benchmarking, and go and talk to whoever is called SCION ambassador, because it does not just pull you to, I am the best, I am the greatest, so because it's very neutral. And then I would personally connect you quite quickly to a company such as Anapaya, or even to the SCION Association, because they really have the grip on all the providers where you can learn from.
I would find an openness and a welcome feeling if I would go to you.
Yeah.
I would try to connect with you.
I mean, where we provide SCION peering is not a secret, right? So we just have to meet at the right exchange. And
So
then,
thank you very
I
much
think
for this inviting attitude.
there's even an easier way. You can order an internet transit access from us, and then you don't need to do anything.
That is one aspect, and I think the SCION Alliance in itself realizes that if we start getting proprietary to get like monopolist or something, SCION is dead tomorrow, and all the investments are in vain, because SCION is an internet, so you need several telcos, basically as much as possible telcos. Most likely responsible telcos, right? Okay. But anyway, there isn't too many of them that would not be responsible, I think, at least not in Switzerland or in Europe. So from that point of view, the openness is here to welcome new ISPs, more ISPs, and I would give whatever if somebody calls me up and says, hey, how did you do that in Switzerland? What experiences have you made? Book an hour, 2, 3, or half a day your workshop.
Let's
We'll
put
be
it
there
to a
to do
test. I think you came a bit later. Was it difficult for you to join us?
No, it was it was very nice. But we had also a very welcoming atmosphere, and I think it is really a big chance also for small ISPs because SCION offers the flexibility that multiple ISP contribute to a network, and so therefore small customer might even prefer having small partners that they can talk on eyesight level rather than big telcos where they feel like a small number or a small customer. So I think it's an opportunity, and I would like to encourage everybody also to participate. I think the more providers we have, the better and resilient the ecosystem will be.
And your success proves you're right, by the way, just to say.
But maybe one thing to add is being part of the SCION Alliance and so on will enable the technology. But in the end, we must make sure that the operator is able to link to the, for example, Swiss domain or to the SSFN domain. And I guess in that case, we need to talk as well to the governance committee of those isolation domain to make sure that we are allowed to send traffic to them. So I think there is a technology and the exchange between operators which need to be, which is one case. And the second step, or the first step, depending on how we want to address the issue, is that you need as well to make sure that you have relevant access to the governance committees to get the Stempel, or I don't know how exactly you have seen the certificate and so on, management. But so the technology is the first step in the story.
You know, it's actually a smart question for him because he wants you to keep your word. So that means that if anyone approaches you in your LinkedIn inbox or you get a phone call, well, we'll make sure that they definitely get a positive response there. Any other questions from the audience? Yes.
So now we quite often heard today that it is important that we are not staying in Switzerland, but we go abroad. What would you suggest would be a way to get a feed into another country? How to start in another country to get, how do you say, to get known, to get people wanting to use SCION?
Yeah, that's probably yet another SCION Day just to talk
SCION
about
Day
this.
Europe, SCION Day USA.
International.
Yeah. I mean, there's always the option to force it through regulations, or you just provide enough benefits so the ecosystem gets started. I think that's part of the SCION advisory board as well, where we are discussing those options, and there are always different routes to be successful. Yeah? I think it's obviously challenging, because otherwise we would be here and already celebrate worldwide coverage and world domination, as Klaas mentioned, but we are not there yet. It's you need to build nucleuses, small reference pilots, like has been done in Switzerland, in all countries actually, to start the fires everywhere. Yeah? And it might be different for different countries based on the regulations and also the current use cases that are driving this. Yeah? But again, if you look at the geopolitical situation across Europe, it feels like there's definitely something at the European level, and there's definitely something in government, defense, military, across Europe that is consistent in terms of achieving sovereignty. So I think that could or should be an anchor.
In our experience in Luxembourg, when we enabled SCION, the nodes in our data centers, basically we were in touch with Anapaya, which helped us a lot to tell us what's the network able to do. And there was this discussion about chicken and eggs problem. But the idea is, okay, we have to also be part of this innovation. So we decided, okay, let's go to implement 2 nodes of SCION in Luxembourg, and then we get connected to Frankfurt via our own backbone. So if you are an operator in another country, you need to find the peering point where you will be able to find partners, and then you are on the SCION network. Now, being SCION enabled doesn't mean that you have a use case. You need then to find the right relay in the politics or in the, let's say, health network or all the other use cases we have seen, to see if they want to test that. And we should, in that case, really leverage the experience of what we have seen here in Switzerland to show to the deciders, the business decider and not the technologist, that it brings added value, it brings added resiliency. And basically, if we don't go this way, and I would take your word, we are missing something and we will do it wrong. So it really start with maybe speaking with Anapaya or with Science Alliance to see where you would be able to peer, not being alone in your SCION network.
I think it's always push and pull, right? So I'm waiting for Swift to come as the next one after SSFN, right? So it should happen on the industry level that this exchange takes place. And sorry, Anapaya, I believe there also need to be more than one provider. That's too small just in the selection which you have right now. And I mean we are, at least speaking for us, we are pretty Switzerland focused. So we had in the very early days of SCION and Anapaya, there were POCs with Deutsche Telekom and so on, but I think it was just from a business model point of view not ready at that point, right? And if we can help with giving some information there, happy to do that. But it probably just takes a bit more time. The RFC progress will also be important, I believe.
I think,
and don't forget the submarine experience of Sunrise. I think it might also help.
I'm pretty much sure the others would also be there as a benchmark and to help others out. But yeah, that was a serious statement I made, so call me up. But I think your point, Anapaya, I think Sunrise would not have deployed SCION as quickly if there wouldn't have already been a standard. And today, the standard is Anapaya. Tomorrow we have the SCION Association because there will be more than one Anapaya. I hear from other companies that see use cases that want to work with the source code together with ETH to become, in a different aspect for different use cases, to become an Anapaya or a SCION software provider. And that would bring us within Switzerland more than just one. And that also tells me that in bigger countries, I mean, we're quite small, quite honestly, right? But imagine bigger infrastructures, imagine Europe. How many of them could exist? And that's why also the SCION Association becomes really key and important to have the SCION architecture as such protected, standardized, and make sure that the quality that the software providers deliver corresponds to the standard that we have set here in Switzerland, or even going further. And there, I think that's a precondition of having a SCION-enabled world. It's not only to have the telcos introduce and deploy SCION in their backbones as the basic infrastructure, but the software that runs on it has also to be diversified.
Now we're nearing towards the end of our conversation. Final questions and points, maybe?
There's a couple of questions from online, so I'm just gonna...
Sure, you can read them out and we can do a quick answer then.
So we have Federico Crivelli, who is asking whether SCION could be added as a SOC 2 standard for cloud adoption. I'm not familiar, but I think it is some kind of like compliance standard. And also, is SCION ready to be considered in BIAN, which I've just Googled, I think is a banking bank industry architecture network. So in general, can SCION be part of standards for cybersecurity and so on, and can this help? I think rephrasing the question, and Federico, please chime in the chat if I've related wrong. But
I didn't get the first question.
I think we need to speak.
Sorry about that. I'll try to eat the microphone.
Yeah.
So, can SCION be added to some cybersecurity standards, and can this help for cloud adoption? For example, he's mentioning SOC 2 as a standard.
Good question.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, SOC 2 is more an auditing of your internal processes, and it goes a step further than ISO usually, so it just validates controls that you have in place. That's the same comment around what I made around NIS2. Can it help? But those kind of standards, they don't require specific technologies. They just talk general terms. Another route could be to try to add SCION to the Linux Foundation, make it part of the cloud native stack, for example. I'm talking about the SaaS provider comment that we heard. That might be a more interesting route to take. Yeah.
It would actually be an interesting move if the counterpart of the FINMA in Europe would declare it mandatory. For the
It would be
be my
interesting
guest. I
indeed.
mean,
And then there's some more, but
Well, I think we can actually save some of those questions because we can get to them online and give some more detailed responses.
All right.
Because we're nearing towards the end of time, I thought it would be nice just to do a quick wrap-up. Okay, SCION Day 2024, what should the theme be?
Europe.
Well, in Switzerland, as we are focusing on Switzerland, I think it would be great to see really other industries to have the same, developing the same speed as we see now in the finance industry, so that we see more companies and more industries really benefiting from what SCION can really deliver. So seeing more industries really being online and having growing bases of companies would be fantastic.
I think this year was Elevate Security. I would say it's Elevate Sovereignty in Europe, so it's a little measure of what you said there.
Well, after those three good ideas, I'm a bit
Luxembourg.
speechless. Maybe Luxembourg is too small, but I agree that Europe and showing that SCION as let's say, is the enabler of the sovereignty for Europe, for example, even if it's a worldwide technology, but it would enable sovereignty.
And Markus?
I can't say Europe anymore. So.
No, you can say global domination.
No, I say SCION-enabled mobile networks, 5G.
So wonderful. Thank you so much. We'll see you all in a year's time to see where we're headed and what the key topics will be. Thank you so much.